Osnara lawbreakers. These went on for 10 years. I called the Westchester Law Journal, and they don't do stories as such, but they did want to have something sent to them about the Glendora versus Cablevision case and about Cablevision not paying their costs. I talked to White Plains Public Access, and their editing equipment went down. It's terrible. It's just terrible. It gives them the worst feeling when they're editing. They lose the capacity to edit. And it's happened with this machine back in May, and it happened with it in August. So at 2 p.m. I went and edited, and when I edited over there, because the editing equipment had gone down, I wasn't able to use a character generator. So a lot of the programs you see have no notes on them so that you can follow them better. But it was a very productive editing session from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. and Fred Strauss is wonderful, and Reader and James helped before they went off to class at Westchester Community College, where they're taking classes in television production. So we did the last 10 minutes of program 1578 of VHS. We did a 3/4 inch, edited the last 10 minutes of 1579, which I didn't have time to finish over at TCI last Thursday. They were about Cablevision. And then we made a VHS of 1579, a 3/4 inch of 1580, a VHS of 1580, a 3/4 inch of 1581. It was about the noisy girls and the noisy boys. VHS of 1581, a 3/4 inch of 1582, a VHS of 1582, and a 3/4 inch of 1583. And by then it was 5 o'clock, and it was time to stop. So we didn't get the VHS of 1583 done. I went to the White Plains Library, and I read the New York statutes, and we copied the law, starting with the CPLR. I'm up to the CPLR, Civil Practice Laws and Rules, and that's book 9 of the New York statutes. And I can't show you how big. This screen isn't big enough to show you. The New York statutes are spread out your arms, and each shelf is that long with about 30 volumes in each shelf. And then there's about 8 shelves of that. It goes from the top of the bookcase down to the bottom of the bookcase in the White Plains Public Library. And the laws that we copied for me to learn and become familiar with cost $13 to copy. At the time was 1 hour. It's nice to have covered, it's really very nice to have covered the New York statutes, the first 9 volumes. October the 6th, 1994, I awakened at 4 a.m. and decided to get up, and I wrote my rehearing to the decision on the Judge Cattell appeal, and I will be reading that to you. And I finished writing it around 7:30, and I also did the Scott Lord work, the log, and got ready 48 pages of log to send out on Scott Lord. And Franklin at 6:11 a.m. started typing the rehearing. And then we called to see how his brother is doing. He's breathing better, but it's terrible that he can't breathe. And then there's a kidney infection, and he can't talk because they took out his windpipe, the trachea, and apparently that did something to the voice box. And at 7:53 a.m., Franklin and I set up to videotape. And in the locker room, the first athlete says, "Prestige is a fan asking you for an autographed picture." The second athlete says, "No, Prestige is you're at the White House," and the president goes by and he says, "Hi, Bill, how's the family and wife?" And the third athlete says, "No, Prestige is you're at the Vatican," and you have your picture taken. The next day the photos come out and everybody says, "Who's that guy standing next to Williams, the one with the beanie?" So then I got out the notice of appeal for Colabella, and I will read you that later. The cats are vegetarians. I fed them a second time. I fed the squirrels peanut butter sandwiches, took care of the compost, and there was no walk around the estate this morning outdoors early in the fresh air. And then the telephone answering machine is all wacky. It has a short someplace, so I wrestled with that and got it to work. I don't know for how long. And then the audio tapes got all mixed up. Audio tape 628 got mixed up with 629, and those had to be queued up. And Eleanor Folsom called. She is 91. And Merrill Folsom has been taken to the hospital. He is 92, and they've been married 70 years. So he's at the hospital. I called Perry, the amicus curiae, to see if he got the copy cartridge and the instructions for the Canon copy machine, the one that I'm loaning him because I had to buy a new one, and send that one down to Canon in Jamesburg and get it fixed at $176. And then Brian Grafman sent me this. He wants me to read this to you. This is a telephone bill from 9X, and 9X billed Brian Grafman in behalf of Integritel. Integritel or Integritel? It's going to be Integritel charges. And Brian talked for 4 minutes from Paterson, New Jersey to New Rochelle, and it cost him $5.02. And it's all together with all the taxes, $5.17. I'll show you that one first. Now let me see how long that was. It was a night rate. He talked for 4 minutes for $5.17, apparently from Paterson, New Jersey to New Rochelle, New Rochelle, New York. And then, oh, this is the one that really bowled him over, and it bowls me over too. And he asked me to ask you to write to Integritel and complain to them. He talked for 1 minute at 2:35 p.m. from Paterson, New Jersey to Hastings, New York, and they charged him $8.92, and with the federal tax, that came out to $9.19. And if this was an AT&T call, I don't like AT&T myself. I like MCI or Sprint. He said if it were an AT&T call, that would have been $1. To have talked 1 minute would have been $1 from Capital Network. It's called, billed on behalf of Capital Network, Paterson, New Jersey. 201-790-9626 is where he called from to Hastings, New York, 914-478-7829. And it was on a Sunday afternoon. And he talked 1 minute, and Capital Network charged him $8.92. So complain. That's outrageous. Can I show you this bill? Altogether, it's $9.19 up here. $9 and something cents for 1 minute from Paterson, New Jersey to New Rochelle, to Hastings. Rip off Robert Perry's citations to the United States Court of Appeals on the Bryant appeal, the bad decision by Judge Bryant in the Southern District here in White Plains. And Perry writes to the Clerk of the Court, United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, 40 Foley Square, New York, 10007, regarding Glendora versus Cablevision Systems, index number or docket number 947289, to the clerk. I represent Amicus Curiae, Media Access New York, Manny. Within the past few days, several supplementary authorities have come to my attention. Pursuant to Rule 28J of the Federal Rules of Appellate Procedure, I am informing the court and opposing counsel of these supplemental authorities. Manny's brief at page 16 stated that the federal courts have recognized the public forum status of public access channels. In addition to the decisions cited in the brief, see Altman versus Television Signal and Palange versus Denver Community Television. Enclosed is a copy of the latter slip opinion. Manny's brief at page 15 stated that the operation and administration of public access channels was an exclusively governmental function. In addition to the authority cited in the brief, see Palange. The fact that management authority has been delegated does not diminish the public function DCTV performs. DCTV? CTV would be cable TV. What's D? New York State Commission on Cable Television, minimum requirements for the certification, administration, and operation of public access channels by designated entities. The notice of proposed rulemaking, docket number so-and-so, 1989, public access should remain a publicly controlled medium. Enclosed is a copy of that notice for which I cannot find a reported citation. Manny's brief at page 20 asserts that Section 611E, Title 47, United States Code, Section 531E, is enforceable by public access producers, including Glendora, through an implied right of action. In addition to the authorities cited in the brief, see Altman and Missouri Knights, and that's it. Sincerely, Robert T. Perry. Copy to Robert Kalaji in Glendora. This is the letter that Kalaji answered, and I showed it to you earlier. I got this after I got Kalaji's answer. Here you have several pages of notes as to what is in the contents of the programs that were produced this week, the Chat with Glendora. And as you can see, it's a whole lot of work. Pages and pages of contents of what's on each program, because you try to get the right program of community interest to the right cable company. If it's about White Plains, you want it in White Plains. If it's about Long Island, you want it in Long Island. I had a long talk, again, with a Newsday reporter, Sylvia Adcock, about the story, and she says that they are planning to put it out this weekend, and that would be, today is the 6th or 7th, that would be the 8th and 9th, Saturday the 8th and 9th, in Newsday, Long Island. Maybe it's Newsday, New York. Maybe it's all over the place, the way the New York Times did. They put it in Metro. Here's some more list of contents for the programs of last week that didn't get finished until yesterday. And also the editing, the planning of the editing. You can't waste a minute because you don't have a minute to waste. If you don't move along and do everything fast, you're not going to get it done. This is the list of the chapters: Scott 51, Broder 88, DHCR and Coppola 44, and so forth. And these are the pages of these of the character generator, the graphics. These are the pages they are. I want to read you this. Are you aware of this law? This is domestic mailing manual. And folks, nobody can put anything in your mailbox unless they put a postage stamp on it. We had some business cards slip through our boxes here at 21 Greenridge Avenue, and that's against the law. Whoever knowingly and willfully deposits any mailable matter, such as statements of account, circulars, sale bills, or other like matter on which no postage is paid, in any letter box established, approved, or accepted by the Postmaster General for the receipt of delivery of mail matter on any route, with intent to avoid payment of lawful postage thereon, shall for each such offense be fined not more than $300. And that would be Title 18, United States Code, Section 1725. So don't let people put things in your mailbox. Make those people pay $300. This is the character generator for the Judge Mary H. Smith program. The best place for that is on TCI on November 1st. at 9 p.m. on Channel 8. And she's Republican candidate for Westchester County Court on a chat with Glendora. And, you know, Janine Pirro, when she was a county court judge, she had all these robes made. You know, judges wear black robes, except Judge Reap. He used to wear a royal blue robe, and it looked very nice. And so Janine had a black robe, and she had a brown robe, and she had a navy blue robe. And so a friend of hers made them down in the garment district. A friend of hers made them for her. And she, of course, never got to wear them. She was kind of afraid to wear the other colors. So I asked Judge Mary Smith, you know, when she becomes county court judge, she should make a deal with Janine and buy all those different color robes, because we need a little color in the courtroom. We need something besides those drab black robes. Here's the airings list for today, along with 3 hours of editing from 4 p.m. to TCI to 7 p.m. We have to go get a RODI form from the clerk of the Westchester County Court to appeal the Colabella bad decision. We have to come home and finish retyping the rehearing, which I'm going to read you, and make a master, and type the notice of appeal for Colabella, and fill out the RODI form and make a master. And then these have to be signed by Glendora. The affidavit, and Franklin has to sign the affidavits of service, and 6 copies of the rehearing with blue covers to go to the United States Court of Appeals, and 6 copies of the notice of appeal to go to the Westchester County Clerk and to be served on the defendants, Modern Courts, Mayapath, Hubbard, and Beck, and the lawyer Purvis. And we have to submit, Franklin has to submit the rehearing, and he has to serve Kalaji, and he has to serve Purvis, and then we have to reduce the Scott Lord mailing, which is 48 pages, and reduce it so that it'll come. Do the envelopes and print it, fold stuff and seal it and post it. That's just a few of the errands today, this afternoon only. Pete said that he'd be a rich man today. He said several years ago he had an opportunity to invest in Federal Express, but he thought they were a fly-by-night company. And John says that he buys Sweet Chariot stocks. As soon as he buys them, they swing low. And Paul says, you would be amazed, he's a stockbroker, he says, you would be amazed how many people come to my office to get advice from a man who comes to work on the subway. Well, when you get a legal paper in the mail, the first thing that you do, folks, is open it and paginate it. Don't read it. Open it and paginate it, and get it ready into the system, and break down all the surplus stuff that these lawyers have a habit of sending so they will get paid more. And then you get a piece of scrap paper, and as you read it, you write down your thoughts. And you will find that thoughts are coming fast and furiously, and so you carry that paper with you, and you write down every thought that comes to you about it. Just jot it down. Make a note of it. And along about a couple of days later, you begin to answer the paper. And you get a lot of scrap paper, use up paper that hasn't been written on in the backs. See, this is the the deposition with COSA. And it's only on one side, so you use up all these backs. And you write out your answer in longhand. That's what I did this morning, and that it's about 17 pages long. Now, and then if you're lucky, you have somebody who will type it for you, who's good enough to type it for you. And in my case, that would be Franklin. And here's the first page. And he has typed up through handwritten pages 15. And Here's his beautiful work. And that's what I'm going to read to you. And then you have to have your affidavit of service that you served the other side a copy. So you get your envelopes ready. And then you have to have a copy go to the judge. And so that's what is happening here. This decision from the United States Court of Appeals, from Judge Winter and Judge Jacobs and Judge Capranis, this decision came in on Monday or Tuesday, along about then. And here's the affidavit of service. And then you have your answer, and you get your answer out of here as soon as possible so you can have some peace. But then that never works. You never get any peace because the next day there's another one to oppose. This is the United States Court of Appeals, the Second Circuit, and this is Glendora plaintiff against Conrad Duberstein, Robert John Hall, Andrew Maloney, Harold Jones, Neil Mann, Teresa Kavanaugh, Richard O'Connell, Joseph Derby, Scott Lord, Jan Stahl, and Jeffrey Barnes. Defendants. The district court initials are the Southern District of New York. The district court docket number is 93 Civ 4263, and the district court judge is Gattell. The docket number in the United States Court of Appeals is 946132, and this is the appellant's petition for rehearing. After the oral argument, there comes a decision, and after the decision comes this petition for rehearing. It's submitted by Glendora, Pro Se, Glendora TV Ads, Box 416, White Plains, New York, 10602, 914-949-9495. It's, the other side is Lorraine Esnovinsky, Special Assistant, United States Attorney, Southern District of New York, 100 Church Street, New York, 10007. It's right across the street practically from the United States District Court. Her number is 212-385-4358. The attorney for Duberstein, Hall, Maloney, Jones, Mann, Kavanaugh, and Derby. Now, the action against O'Connell, Lord, Stahl, and Barnes was remanded to New York State Supreme Court, Westchester County. And to bring you up to date on that, we are waiting for an oral argument before the Appellate Division, Second Department, the Supreme Court of the State of New York, and that's in Brooklyn, and that won't be for a year and a half, just about. It'll be probably December 1995. This is a petition by plaintiff appellant Glendora for rehearing. 1, Glendora being duly sworn, deposed and says her reasons follow for petitioning for a rehearing. 2, Judge Robert John Hall was bad to take 4.5 years to resolve a bankruptcy in which Glendora was a creditor. 3, Judge Robert John Hall was bad to take a year to make a decision about vacating more than a dozen defaults by debtor Scott Lord. 4, Judge Robert John Hall was a bad judge to ignore Glendora's right to motion him to request the United States Attorney Andrew Maloney to conduct a criminal investigation of Scott Lord, Jeffrey Barnes, and Jan Stahl. Judge Robert John Hall was a bad judge not to hear Glendora's evidence when she stood before him and to shut out her information. Judge Robert John Hall should have recused himself 3.5 years before he finally woke up to this fact and did it. Judge Conrad Duberstein was bad to ignore and do nothing about these injustices by Judge Robert John Hall when Glendora informed him every week what was going on. It's not 3.5 years, it's 4 years. Judge Conrad Duberstein was bad to ignore, and so forth. And Judge Gerard L. Cattell was bad to ignore the obvious default of defendants Duberstein, Hall, et al. In not answering a summons with notice and complaint in 20 days, yea, in 3 months, and to be deaf, dumb, and blind to a default of that magnitude. Judge Gerard L. Cattell was bad to deny Glendora's just and correct motion to vacate and reconsider when his judgment had no prospective application. He dismissed her case, and the Federal Tort Claims Act says this has to be a dismissal without prejudice because Glendora had not filed the administrative claims. Then Glendora filed the administrative claims, all denied because of more Judge Buddyism, and therefore Judge Cattell's judgment, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 60, Part 12, Part B, had no prospective application. Glendora notified Judge Cattell a week after his decision to dismiss in August 1993 that she was going to file her administrative claims. That she was, and he was silent about this for 9 months. Then is when Judge Cattell should have said what he waited until April 1994 to say. Judge Cattell's decision was premeditated, rigged, stacked, and fixed. He knew from the beginning he was going to rule in favor of his buddy judges by hook or crook. Judges Hall and Duberstein knew they would count on him. Judge Cattell was bad to deny Glendora due process. A judge should be unbiased and have no personal interest in the verdict. Judge Cattell was wrong to lose Glendora's motion and to use a dry run copy that had no dates on it. It's a good thing Glendora had her stamped copy as to when the real one was filed. Judge Cattell is bad to be so blatantly anti-pro se as to print in the New York Law Journal every day, no oral arguments by pro se. Judge Cattell is bad to have no conferences, no hearings, no trials by jury, and to reduce a court to a correspondence school. How anti-due process can one get? Glendora petitions her government for justice, honesty, principle, and she gets corruption, violation of her rights, and buddyism. She doesn't have a chance, and she has to pay for this $1,000. Courts and judges are the worst consumer ripoff in America today. Her husband offers his life for a just America, only to see it demoralized by buddy judges. What is a judge's life worth if he, like Dr. Faustus, can't own his own soul? What is a judge's life worth if he stands up for what is wrong and not what is right? When he desecrates his oath? It is time for reform, for change. Judges rule for what is best for judges. After all the lofty reading, research, and case citation, judges rule by the seat of their pants anyway. Glendora's action showed up 3 judges, exposed them, made a public record of the bads. It is there in the archives forever. It is on television every week. Judge Winter was bad to ignore Glendora's request for 10 minutes of oral argument instead of 5 minutes. This was the first oral argument she had had since she filed the lawsuit March the 30th, 1993. Judge Winter was bad to take Glendora's request for 10 minutes out of her 5 minutes. Then and there, Glendora could see that Judge Winter was not interested in justice. Then and there, Glendora could see that Judge Winter would commit the evil that Judge Cattell committed, cover up and protect his buddies, Judges Hall, Duberstein, and Cattell. The cycle is complete now. The vortex has reached its nadir. Now we know Judge Winter would not give Glendora 5 minutes when the calendar was grotesquely short, a motion and 3 oral arguments, when the panel arrived at 10 a.m. straight up and left the courtroom at 10:59 a.m. Little is left to the imagination on that one. It is a sacrilege. Are you going to the funeral of Madam Justice and of Sir Court Reform? Glendora knows she fought a good fight. Glendora knows she still owns her soul. The oral argument was September 27th. The decision was September 28th. No due deliberation was required. The 3rd paragraph of page 2 of Judge Winter's decision is illegible. You see it there? You can't read it. I'll try. Glendora does not appeal from the district court's original dismissal of her complaint, Judge Winter writes. Thus, the propriety of that decision is not before this court. Even if it were properly before this court, it should be affirmed. See? Buddy judge, we're always going to affirm what the judges do. Glendora's claim lay under the Federal Tort Claims Act, which prescribes exhaustion of certain administrative remedies prior to a suit in federal court. See Title 28, the United States Code 2675A, stating that an action shall not be instituted Okay, I guess that's enough of that. Glendora did exhaust certain administrative remedies pursuant to Title 28, United States Code 2675A. To say she did not is a lie. The same lie that Judge Cattell told. Glendora cured the defect. The record stands. This decision by Judge Winter is so bad it should be framed and put on Glendora's office wall. Certainly Glendora has been framed. I'll have to write my oral argument, but I think I got it pretty straight in my head. What is there to say? We have a law in the United States. And it's Title 15 of the United States Code, Section 7, that no corporation engaged in commerce shall acquire directly or indirectly all or any part of the stock or other share capital, and no corporation subject to the jurisdiction. In other words, that you can't go around and buy up all of your competition with the sole purpose to make a monopoly, and that's what Gannett did in Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam. So Gannett broke that law, and that we have another law, and I was injured by that, so therefore I have standing. You were injured by that. And we have another law, Section 4 of the Sherman Antitrust Law and the Clayton Act, that any person who shall be injured in his business or property by reason of anything forbidden in the antitrust laws may sue therefore in any district court of the United States. And that's what I did. I sued in the United States District Court, Southern District, in the White Plains office. And my injuries were, and now I'll list all my injuries, and your injuries too, and this is a class action. You're in on this. By joining forces to create one rather than many new organizations in marketing, finance, and other functions, eliminating competition through consolidation, making monopolies, making monopoly prices, excessive profits, and all you got to do for excessive profits is look at the proxy statement and see how much Curly is making every year, something like 8 or 9 million. And then I think the last point I'll make, whether I have 7 minutes, 15, 7 minutes, 10, or 15, the last point I'll make will be that Judge Broderick, who decided that the Gannett wasn't a monopoly in Westchester, is anti-keeping of the laws of the United States. And I'll cite Cablevision's case, where we had a law that Cablevision broke, that no cable operator shall exercise editorial control over public usage channel. That's a law of the United States. Cablevision broke it, and Judge Broderick says, oh, that's okay. So we'll just point out that Judge Broderick isn't very good on making decisions about laws in the United States being broken, contrary to his oath. Judge Silverman essentially had the same case before him, that no cable company shall exercise editorial control of a public usage channel, and Judge Silverman ruled that plaintiff had a statutory right to have her program on the cable TV in Long Island, and it must be returned, and it has been returned. So I wished I'd had time to write this oral argument before today so I could read it to you. But with so much law breaking and so much lying and so much covering up, not only by defendants, but by their crooked lawyers and by corrupt courts, you spend all of your time as a paper you have to get out every day in defense of what is right, what is true, what is honest, and what is the law. Thing to report to you, that I got a call from a clerk in the United States Court of Appeals, and I love those clerks. I like them very much. Clerk Monica and Clerk Frank and Clerk Valentine. And this was a new girl. Her name was Genevieve, and she said, you are missing 5 copies of your rehearing. And that would be for the Scott Lord Gattell appeal, Judge Duberstein and Judge Hall. And I said, no, P.J. Valentine clerk told me to send the 1 original and 4 copies. And that's exactly what I did. And Genevieve says, well, you should send 5 more copies. And I said, no, I think that P.J. Valentine should make the 5 copies. It was not my error. and Genevieve brought on P.J. Valentine, and P.G. Valentine said that she would make the 5 copies. And so then later I was talking to Clerk Monica, who is terrific. Well, she's great, Clerk Monica. And I told her what had happened, and it was resolved. P.J. Valentine was making the copies, had made them right then, and so the whole thing was resolved. Now, I want to tell you something else that happened. David Nagel, who has programs on public access, on Cablevision, in Long Island, there's a North Fork and the South Fork, right? They're both Cablevision companies. And the North Fork is East Hampton and Amagansett and Montauk. And he says, send your programs out there and we'll put them on LTV. LTV standing for local TV. I don't know what it is out there, but it sounds mighty interesting that the public access producers or the town or the public or somebody runs the public access. They do all the cable casting and all the returning of tapes and receiving of tapes. So I think that's terrific, don't you? So he says send it out, and yesterday Franklin did. He sent out 4 programs on VHS. It has to be on VHS. He sent out 4 programs on VHS, and so those will be on Cablevision, East Hampton, Amagansett, and Montauk. I'm sorry that Cablevision, that East Hampton lost the right to get rid of Cablevision. I think East Hampton should have the right to get rid of a cable company that they're dissatisfied with. Sorry that justice wasn't done there. Now the South Fork, what is that? That's Southampton and Riverhead and Shelter Island. And of course it's Cablevision. Cablevision has every town tied up in Long Island except Brookhaven, and that's TCI. And the North Fork of Long Island say, Glendora, you are our hero, because I stood up to Cablevision and I won. It's hard to believe, isn't it, folks, that this country was founded partially on a cause of no taxation. When you look at all the taxes that are on our telephone bills, do you know I had a telephone bill for $28 and $14 was taxes? I had a telephone bill for $28 and $14 was taxes. I had another telephone bill that was something like $60 because I have 3 lines, and $30 of that was taxes. And then the big telephone bill, the one that we use the most, is about $150, and that's about $40 taxes. And then there's the long distance carrier. Now, income tax time is the time of the year when poor people wish they were rich, because we all know that rich people don't pay any income tax. And I have to tell you about Harriet and Peter, who got married when they were so young that half of their wedding presents were made by Mattel. As far as Glendora versus the DHCR, all of those people, and Judge Coppola, the William Street DHCR, that's the Division of Housing and Community Renewal, New York State. It is dormant. It is asleep down in the archives in the cellar bin. It will not wake up until the oral argument in the Appellate Division of the Supreme Court of the State of New York, Second Department in Brooklyn. And I went to see the Appellate Division on Tuesday. They came to White Plains. They come to White Plains about twice a year, usually in October and June. And they hear pretty much the White Plains arguments. It's pretty much that way. And so I watched them. It was the shortest session I have ever seen, folks. It was 45 minutes. They arrived at 10 a.m. promptly. They were done at 10:45 a.m. Judge Thompson was presiding, and he wasn't too wild and offensive. And Judge Miller was there, Judge Rosenblatt, Judge Ritter. These are all North County people, Orange County and Dutchess County and Westchester County. Now, Jimmy was there, and Pat was there, and a new court officer named Mike, young, small, good-looking. And there were only about 20 people there. And so many of the cases, the other side didn't show up, so they were submitted. And Judge Miller really got exercised over a case where a father would not pay child support. The father took off, went to Florida, said, I'm married again, I have a child, and that he'd been denied visitation rights, and that he wasn't going to pay. And Judge Miller was really upset about that. And when the defense lawyer came on, he made some joke about a $76 special, and Judge Ritter says, this is a very serious matter. So Judge Ritter was offended by that lawyer's remark, and that lawyer certainly made an effort to kowtow to Judge Ritter after that, during the rest of his oral argument. Judge Rosenblatt, as always, makes the best comments. And that was it. Oh, yes, Arnold Edmond was there, the deputy clerk of the appellate division. The clerk is Martin Brownstein, and then there's two deputies under him, and Arnold Edmond was there. I believe that's it on what happened at the appellate division on October the 11th, 1994, Tuesday. As far as Lydia goes, Lydia Gallicano, Glendora versus Lydia Gallicano, that's asleep also. That's quiescent. We're waiting for the New York State Court of Appeals, the highest court in New York State, up in Albany, to give me leave to argue. I want to reverse the appellate division's very, very bad decision. They did such a terrible job on that. No, the Supreme Court in Westchester County does a bad job, but this is the appellate division court, a higher court, and their work is just as bad, or if not worse, than the Supreme Court. That was really a blow that they could do so badly. It is educational. You have to remember all of the children of TV repairmen that it has put through college. And Arthur comes from a very rich family, folks. His family is so rich that they bought a boy for the dog. And did you hear about Anthony, on the other hand, who grew up in such a poor neighborhood, in such a rough and tough neighborhood, that the good humor man used to come around in an armored truck? And do you know about the undertaker who signed all of his letters, eventually yours? This is the wall, Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin, Judge Wood, Paul Carlucci, law clerk. This is the order and decision that came in Tuesday, October the 4th, 1994. And this is what I have to say about this decision and order. And I address this to Governor Cuomo, candidate Pataki, Harold L. Wood, Justice of the Supreme Court, so-called Westchester County, Paul Carlucci, grotesquely prejudiced law clerk for the above, Joseph J. Trafficante, Jr., Office of Court Administration, Albany, E. Leo Malonis, Chief Administrative Judge, the Office of Court Administration, Angelo Ingracia, Chief Administrative Judge, 9th and 10th Judicial Districts, Gary Casella, the Grievance Committee of the 9th and 10th Judicial Districts, Gerald Stern, Commission on Judicial Conduct, and Chief Judge Judith Kay, and to you, Glendora's TV audience. This arrived on Tuesday, as I told you. I didn't have time to deal with it on Wednesday, nor on Thursday. And Friday, I opened it. And it's just outrageous. Friday, I started writing my reaction to this, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Took 22 hours to write this, to type it, to have it printed, and to distribute it. And it costs approximately $50 to $60 to print it and distribute it, the postage. Glendora's rights are violated. She goes to the Westchester Supreme Court for justice. Her rights are violated again, and instead of getting justice, she becomes a victim of the court's corruption. Read the enclosed decision written by Paul Carlucci, which documents the above. Not only is there lack of justice, but there is incompetence. Further, there is strong indication of corruption, evil, and crookedness. In every Westchester County courtroom there is a sign, "In God we trust." This is a sacrilege. They do not trust in God, they trust in Satan. Like Dr. Faustus, they have sold their souls. Judges get the pay. They have no say. Court clerks have the sway. Law clerks have the sway. Again, because a judge doesn't do his work and gets everybody else to do it for him, judges become outrageously dependent upon law clerks and let the same take over the place and rule the roost and rule the chambers. A judge will sign a date anything a law clerk puts under his nose. After Carlucci denies Glendora justice on her every plea unilaterally and grants every crooked request of the lawyers, he drones on with 2 pages of spite and malice, listing improperly Glendora's other fights for rights. This is in violation of CPLR 107 that demands simplicity and brevity of statement. The big point of this New York statute, meaning the CPLR. This part of this decision in order, euphemistically called, must be struck from the record for irrelevancy, for being scandalous and prejudicial, and being unnecessarily inserted in a judge's paper. All that has transpired in Judge Wood's court over the past 9 months has been a charade and has been a masquerade. Carlucci Wood are wrong that Larkin defendants, through their mixed-up law firm, did not default in answering Glendora's summons with notice and complaint of November 11, 1993. Incompetent lawyers did not answer the summons with notice and complaint until mid-January 1994. How can Carlucci Wood be deaf, dumb, and blind to a default of that magnitude? How? With prejudice, malice, spite, ineptitude, incompetence, and corruption. Carlucci Wood deliberately deceive and misrepresent that the previous motion denied, of course, was for the default of Walsh defendants and Alpucci defendants, not Larkin defendants. It is a matter of record that Bruce Bendish is representing Walsh and Alpucci, even though at the July conference he did not seem to be aware of whom he was representing. It is a matter of record that Wilson, Karamatsus, Kevin Comboy, Michael Koza, Leo McGrath are separately representing the Larkin defendants. And they defaulted clearly, and to rule that they did not is court corruption. Defendants got everything they asked for. Plaintiff got nothing she asked for. You would think that corruption would show a little bit more finesse. Kevin Comboy defied a Judge Wood order to provide Glendora a copy of the insurance agreement. He violated CPLR 3101F. Carlucci Wood do nothing about it. Are they there to enforce the law or to be crooked? Glendora had to see the insurance agreement to confirm her suspicion that general accident does not cover Larkin's for non-bodily injury. Glendora's cause of Glendora's cause of action is emotional disturbance with no physical effect. By the extreme and outrageous and deliberate campaign going beyond all possible bounds of decency and utterly intolerable in a civilized society, perpetrated by the Larkins. Further, she had to confirm that the policy did not cover Larkin for the intentional infliction of emotional disturbance. Their campaign was no accident. It was intentional. So general accident does not cover them. There have been over 990 tortious acts committed by these defendants. Carlucci Wood have done nothing to protect Glendora from any of these. Instead, they have let the tortfeasors go on repetitively. Let me say that again. Let the tortfeasors go on repetitively, breaking the law. Tortfeasors know Carlucci Wood will let them break the law, and Glendora has reported every one of these 990 tortious acts to Carlucci Wood. This is justice. This is how a court should perform. A laughingstock. And this masquerade, every bit of it, has been reported on television. The public has to know the condition the courts masquerading as justice are in. Now, we have the matter of Michael Koza lying to Judge Wood and to Plaintiff Glendora about Larkin's new address. They moved from here July the 24th, 1994. CPLR 3118 states, demand for address of party or of person who possessed an assigned cause of action or defense. A party may serve on any party a written notice demanding a verified statement setting forth the post office address and residence of the party. Look how Koza lied. Please be advised that the present address of the defendants is as follows: Andrew Larkin and Kevin Larkin, Post Office Box 214, Showell, Maryland 21868. Andrew Larkin is still a Harrison, New York policeman. We verified that. Then Koza, when Glendora demanded a second time the correct residence address, lied again. Carlucci Wood have been protectively silent on all of this. The correct Larkin address is 68 Condit Avenue, Harrison, New York 10528. This is more court corruption. Then we have the matter of Michael Koza being totally unqualified to do the rogatory, the deposition taking orally of Glendora. He was shamefully unprepared. He was not familiar with the facts and circumstances. He would not answer Glendora's question as to whether he was a liar. He was using the deposition as an easy way to do his research he neglected to do. Everything he asked Glendora was already in the record. CPLR 3115C states, disqualification of person taking deposition. Objection to the taking of a deposition because of disqualification of the person by whom it is to be taken is waived unless made before the taking of the deposition begins or as soon thereafter as the disqualification becomes known or could be discovered with reasonable diligence. So you have to know, you have to state it right away if you believe there's disqualification of the person taking the deposition. Glendora requested a conference for a date certain to complete discovery so she could go on with the trial. Wilson lawyers had, in bad faith, set six different dates for discovery. Glendora was anxious to get it done and complied with all their appointments and breaking thereof until it became obvious to her they were manipulating the discovery to postpone a trial because they knew they will lose at a trial. Glendora has the law-breaking of the defendants on 8 hours of videotape and 3 hours of audio tape. This is why Glendora did not ask for EBT examination before trial. Bendish did not ask for discovery. Only Kevin Comboy, because he gets paid by general accident, asked for discovery. And Glendora was complying with Judge Wood. Gave Glendora a date certain of August the 22nd, 1994 for discovery to be completed. She went. She complied. Koza was 100% inept and closed the discovery at 3 p.m. Glendora has this on audio tape, so discovery was over, but Carlucci would corrupt this, deny Glendora's date certain, grant Koza's request for more discovery to delay the trial. Further, Carlucci would threw out Glendora's notice of issue, demand for jury trial, and certification for trial readiness. Lying lawyers get everything they ask for. Glendora gets nothing. Next, we have the matter of court failure to read the papers. Glendora submits her papers to Judge Wood to read and come to find out he has never read one of them. He admits to this on September the 13th, 1994, as proved by the minutes Glendora paid $15 for. Conference. These are the minutes. I read those to you last week. The court. You know, of course, I have a motion. That's Judge Wood. Glendora. 3 motions. One, that Carlucci should recuse himself and that you make the decision solely. And the 2 motion is that Wilson be sanctioned for not giving me the insurance agreement that you ordered them to give me. And 3 is that I win by default judgment. Judge Wood, except they brought on a cross motion. Do you have a copy of that? Glendora. Yes, sir. And I also had a reply affidavit to that cross motion. Judge Wood, did you submit it to it? Did you submit to it? What he means is, did I submit it? An answer to their cross motion? Glendora. Yes. Judge Wood, so it is all fully submitted? Glendora. Yes. Judge Wood, I think you realize I have not had a chance to read all the papers. As a matter of fact, I am seeing them for the first time because we put everything over pending this conference. Judge Wood didn't even know that Glendora had answered the cross motion with a reply affidavit. The papers you hand in for your case are blocked by the evil law clerk who had taken over everything and is bossing the judge around. This is court? This is Empire State? This means that Judge Wood never saw the critique Glendora wrote about Carlucci's 3 other dippy decisions, where he does not address the merits but talks about not double spacing and not typing on both sides of the paper. We have to save the trees, and we have to save taxpayers the real estate costs of storing all this wasted paper space. Carlucci was wrong about no affidavit of service upon which he based his senseless decision. He simply missed it. The affidavit of service was in the file all the time. And any schoolboy can affirm in the file of the county clerk where Judge Wood's grandson Dean works. The point is that Carlucci is wrong. Typo, left out 2 commas. To block Glendora's papers to Judge Wood, and Judge Wood is wrong not to do his job and know what Glendora is saying. Unbelievable, isn't it? It's just totally incredible. This is the Supreme Court of the state of New York. Next, we have the matter of the order to show cause for a temporary restraining order on these law-breaking defendants. The hundreds of tortious acts are piling up every day, week after week, month after month, but Judge Wood is doing nothing. Glendora asks for relief and submits this order to show cause. Evil Carlucci takes the teeth out of it and crosses out the justice Glendora would get. Here is the order to show cause. You remember that. That defendants Roberta, James, and Daniel Walsh, Anella and Theo Alpucci show cause before this court at the courthouse, 111 Grove Street, room 1800, White Plains, New York, 10601 on September 7, 1994, at 10:30 a.m. or soon thereafter, as plaintiff can be heard, and that's usually by noon. Why an order should not be issued and entered. First went to CPLR 6101 and Rule 61-113, enjoining and restraining defendants from annoying, disturbing, taunting, insulting, or abusing plaintiff Glendora, enjoining and restraining defendants from harassing plaintiff Glendora, enjoining and restraining defendants from any invasion of plaintiff Glendora's rights to quiet, comfort, repose, and privacy. And then I want you to see what he crossed out. Ordered that pending the hearing and determination of this action, defendants be enjoined and restrained from bothering Glendora in any way under penalty of fine and jail. And he took it out. It's a toothless order to show cause. And then you remember all of the abuse that Franklin took from these rowdies, Theo Alpucci, Nella Alpucci, Roberta Walsh, and Daniel Walsh, and, no, not Daniel Walsh, James Walsh. And now Judge Wood Carlucci deny this order to show cause. A simple order to show cause. And they deny it. And you want to know something? The second order to show cause, this is the second one he's denied. And this is unbelievable. And the defendants, neither in the first one nor the first one, ever showed cause. They didn't even answer. And Wood Carlucci grants that they win on the order to show cause. How crooked can a court get? The first order to show cause was never answered by the defendants either, and Carlucci Wood denied that. And to make it excruciatingly hard for Glendora and her 75-year-old husband, Carlucci Wood demand personal service. Just see how 75-year-old D-Day veteran Franklin gets beat up by hoodlums Walsh and Alpucci. And this I've already read. And this I've already read to you some time ago. But I want Governor Cuomo to see it, and Trafficante, and Malonis, and Judith Kay. There was a barrage of obscenities and abusive language, remember, when he did the service. And That came from the affidavit of service. And to go on, and so the law breaking will just go on day in and day out because of the lawyer protection, the spite, the malice of Solus Carlucci, a brat too big for his pants. Hoodlum defendants go on making a wimp out of wood. At the oral deposition, Koza broke another law, CPLR 3117D. Effect of using deposition, a party shall not be deemed to make a person his own witness for any purpose by taking his deposition. Let me repeat that to you because that could be very valuable to you someday if you get into anything like this. Effect of using deposition. A party shall not be deemed to make a person his own witness for any purpose by taking his deposition. Kozo also, in his anger, tried to intimidate Glendora by calling the courthouse and demanding to speak to Judge Wood. When this failed, he demanded to speak to Carlucci. Glendora knew more than arrogant Koza. Both were on vacation for 2 weeks at the time. I knew that. He didn't. This shows you how Koza thinks he can domineer over Carlucci and Wood. No question about it, and he did. See again the so-called decision in order of October 4th, 1994. Then Koza demanded to speak to the duty judge, that would be Coppola, and almost demanded that Coppola step down from the bench and talk to him on the phone. Koza left a message for Coppola to call him. This was shameless ex parte. Koza was confident he could manipulate the court. This is not in the minutes of the deposition because Koza covered it up with off the record. But Glendora has it on audio tape. And now Bendage waived his right to discovery at the July 22nd conference. He did not ask for discovery, nor did his defendants. Yet here he was, horning in on Koza's deposition of Glendora. They were whispering to each other and prompting each other. It was crooked. Glendora objected. Bendage defied, and Carlucci Wood turned their backs on another law broken. It is their bitter pro se prejudice that blinds them, and this is unconstitutional. Both the New York State Constitution and the United States Constitution give Glendora the right to defend herself. And Judge Wood took an oath to support the Constitution. Another constitutional right of Glendora's is violated by Carlucci Wood, due process. Due process mandates an unbiased judge and a judge who has no personal interest in the verdict. Note, no sanctions for Koza's breaking the law. Instead, it's threatened sanctions for Glendora. Glendora specifically motioned that Carlucci be out of the decision, that the decision be made solely by Judge Wood. And what does she get? A decision made solely by Carlucci. And probably Judge Wood didn't even read it before he dated and signed it. Again, Glendora's rights are violated. She petitions her government for redress of wrong. She goes to the court to stop the violation, to protect her, to bring these lawbreakers to justice, to make good the damage. And what does the court do? Side with her crooks. This odyssey through purgatory and Hades costs Glendora hundreds of dollars and devours her time and her life. It saps her vitality. Every day it's a lawyer's lie to review, a law clerk's malice and incompetence to write and to fight, a judge's inertia and dereliction to oppose and make public. We have no life left. We have no income from Glendora TV ads because Glendora has no time left to run her business. We are senior citizens on Social Security and on Franklin's pension. Is this the best America you can show us after Franklin offered his life for America on D-Day 1944? Did you go to the funeral of Madam Justice and assert court reform? It all has been set to lyrics and music by Gilbert and Sullivan. There is no way an honest and honorable judge could read the record and rule this way. No way at all. Paul Carlucci shamefully tries to cover up by calling himself this court's confidential law clerk. Throughout his whole decision, he never referred to himself by name. He just covered up by saying this clerk's confidential law clerk, quote unquote. This is a new nadir that is really going to look good on TV. He fools no one. The decision was written solely by Carlucci. It has on it his indisputable stamp of spite, malice, arrogance, immaturity, ineptitude, vindictiveness, hatred, and evil. It is unconstitutional. It is un-American. It is why the Appellate Division, New York Supreme Court, Second Department is a year and a half behind. There are so many bad law clerks and judges in Westchester County Supreme Court. What is supreme, quote unquote, about this Carlucci rot? What is Empire State about it? Its stench will foul the archives for all years to come. The Judge Wood conferences are called for 9:15 a.m. Franklin and Glendora are always there at 9:15 a.m. Then they wait and wait in the hallway There's no nice little rooms to wait in as there are in the Nassau County Supreme Court. And we wait and wait for a Wilson-bathed lawyer to show. Half an hour, 90 minutes. Is this right? Is this equitable? Why should we burn up time waiting for a bungling Wilson lawyer? But these lawyers wind the judge around their little fingers, and it costs Franklin $50 every time he takes the morning off to go to these conferences to be a witness of the injustice. Defendants have no defense. Defendants never will have, but they have lying lawyers in the corrupt court to cover up for them. In God we trust? No. Where is our trust? In Satan. They have sold their souls, looked deeply into their soulless eyes. They keep eschewing a trial by jury. They know when it gets into the hands of real people who will see the videotapes and hear the audio tapes, and out of the hands of dishonorable manipulators, that Glendora will win and they will lose. Kozer lies that Glendora did not answer his deposition questions. She answered every one. She spent an hour on his inept questioning. Kozer obnoxiously pats himself on the back, insults and lies about a Greenwich Village Halloween costume. Halloween is coming up, just 2 weeks. That's a cheap shot. Carlucci should be sanctioned. The court should be sanctioned. Carlucci should be fired. Judge Wood has done nothing for Glendora. In 9 months, his record is nothing good, all bad, nothing right, all wrong. Carlucci's ignoring the gravamen of the case. Oh, it's all penumbra, it's no core, and dribbling about no double space and two sides of the paper. A court of all places should know that everything has two sides, is nescience. Ever since he based his decisions on the first 3 motions of this trivia, Glendora has double-spaced and used only one side of the paper. It is in the exhibits that are single-spaced and 2 sides. Carlucci makes a fool out of himself again. Exhibits do not have to be double-spaced and on one side. Exhibits are not legal papers. In that sense, exhibits are as they are. When is Judge Wood ever going to make his own decisions? Even when you make a motion that a law clerk recuses himself, the evil is so entrenched it cannot be exiled. Judges are two-faced. You can't trust a judge. It is no wonder. They are rehashed lawyers. Another public disgrace is spewed from the Westchester County Courthouse Tower, and another ugly report goes out over the coaxial cable of 10 cable companies. Now 11. Glendora has decided that this October 4th travesty is not only inept, she also questions his honesty and morality. She wonders if Carlucci is getting paid in the corner for ruling 100% for lying lawyers and 100% against plaintiff. She wonders if this is a Judge Manton decision. She cannot explain its peculiarities any other way, and this is from the first bad Carlucci decision. Now Carlucci will try to keep Judge Wood from seeing this 22-page paper, as he probably did Glendora's last protest. This is an old law clerk deviousness. Court, law clerk, lawyers are trying to run roughshod over this pro se, but this pro se will have the last word, TV. Glendora is reading the New York statutes, book 1 to book 80. She is up to the 10th book already. Instead of talking about all the evidence and law breaking by defendants exposed in the exhibits, Carlucci talks about misspelled words. Wrong. They are typos. Glendora does not misspell. Taxpayers provide Carlucci with a secretary. Glendora has none. He talks about ungrammatical, quote, and unquote. Glendora is an English major, also psychology, and a graduate student in physics and math. She carries the banner for correct English. Carlucci says, quote, unquote, unintelligible. Any qualified person would not have this obstacle to his comprehension. Carlucci just cannot see the difference between an exhibit and what is not an exhibit. The logs are exhibits. And his paper is not double-spaced, it is 1.5 spaced. More than 100 police reports have been submitted to the court dealing with the law breaking of the defendants. Does Carlucci address this? No, because it is significant. It is important. He used the state resources to talk about misspelled words and about wisecracks. The jokes are in the exhibits to give readers comic relief and are very popular, but Glendora does not expect Carlucci to have a sense of humor. Carlucci obviously calls the shots in the Wood court. Judge Wood has sold his independence to him and lets him get by with it. Judge Wood isn't supposed to retire until next year. Well, I'll tell you, he is retired now. He's acting retired now. Unilateral Carlucci mentions Glendora's cases but does not mention Glendora's wins. So what would you expect? Fairness, maturity, honesty, honor? Well, Glendora will make a public record of it. This will be on TV for a very long time. The public has to know. First Amendment means not only a right to tell, but the public's right to know. And this is why judges will not allow audio and video recorders in the courthouse. They don't want you, the public, to know what they are like. The preliminary conference will be held on Halloween. Is that a trick or a treat? Then 2.5 months of lazy delay before trial readiness, and they should study the Fed's delay reduction plan and cost reduction plan. January 18, 1995 is the date set for trial readiness. That will be 15 months, and nothing has been accomplished in this court, not one thing. The temper of this court is indicated by the following. When all of the motions have been unilaterally decided, Carlucci continues on for 1.5 pages that has nothing to do with the gravamen. Glendora will tell her viewers, do not look for justice in the courts. It is dead. Do not look for justice in the courts. It's dead. Why don't law clerks appear at the conferences? They are too busy writing the judge's decisions. The pay is $103,000 for Judge Wood a year to fill in a date, sign your name, and bow to your ghostwriter. You get $103,000 a year for that. And who pays that? You do. It's taxpayer money. Taxes, taxes, taxes. And you pay $103,000 for a judge to fill in a date and sign a name. All the time the lawyers get paid. The more they lie and cover up and cheat, the more they get paid. Glendora never gets paid. She just keeps losing business. Carlucci's outrageous tantrums and Judge Wood's permissiveness are a tactic to discourage people from exercising their constitutional right to being pro se, to having equal protection of the law. Courts are an old boys club, mean, underhanded, and devious. They end up hating everybody and most of all themselves. They have lost their self-respect. So what did Carlucci Wood stand up for? This is what Carlucci Wood stood up for. Breaking the CPLR, disobeying a judge's order, defendants breaking the laws of our land, 990 counts, lying about an address, twice. It is okay to default. It is okay to ignore a date certain for discovery. It is okay to sell your soul. It is okay to be crooked. It is okay against the rules to talk over your cases with other law clerks, evil law clerks ganging up on a pro se. 14 years is too long for a judge to be on the bench. These judges are elected for 14 years or 10 years. That's too long. Carlucci saying Glendora is asking Judge Wood to recuse himself is a pathetic case of convoluted lying. Any honest person knows what Glendora said. Carlucci should recuse himself. It must be obvious to you by now. Carlucci Wood have never seen the videotapes nor heard the audio tapes of the defendants' obscene, outrageous, abusive law-breaking. The heinous crookedness is so firmly embedded, folks, that these people cannot extricate themselves. Our minister's wife knows Judge Wood through Evans Brewster, another judge, who has never come to church in 8 years, not since I've been there. Freedom from mental disturbance is a protected interest in New York State. Are you aware of that, Carlucci Wood? What qualifies a person to be a law clerk? What qualifies a person to be a judge? What qualifies a person to make court decisions? These bad law clerks and judges are destroying America. We have judges with no judgment. That is why Glendora is not voting for Judge Coppola on November 8th. With liberty and justice for all, quote unquote, we pledge to the flag. Westchester County Supreme Court does not stand for justice for all. Charles Osgood talking about the many versions of the caduceus. You know the caduceus, the staff with all the snakes, the medical symbol. It goes way, way back to the Greeks. They had that symbol. Anyway, Charles Osgood was talking about it on the radio, and he related a conversation that Charles Osgood had with his doctor, and he asked his doctor about his version of the symbol. Everybody has different versions. And Charles Osgood said to his doctor, "Do you have a staff?" And doctor said, "Yes, just a nurse and a secretary." And Osgood said, "Well, do you have a snake?" And the doctor says, "No, I have a lawyer, but he isn't on the staff." So Glendora and Franklin will pay the sanctions Carlucci is threatening out of their Social Security and pension. Don't Carlucci Wood know that it is wrong? A judge is paid for writing decisions. A law clerk is not. This is against public policy. And as the hymn says, and that hymn is written by a famous New England poet. It's not Emerson. It's not Lowell. But it's a very famous and beloved New England poet. Anyway, this is our Father's world, and though the wrong oft seems so strong, God is the ruler's yet. This is our Father's world, and though the wrong oft seems so strong, God is the ruler yet. Carlucci, as on every other point, is wrong about Canon 3A of the Code of Judicial Conduct. A judge should be patient, dignified, and courteous to litigants. The corruption you see here is only the tip of the iceberg. 100 times this is underwater, out of sight. The meanness and arrogance of law clerks and the incompetence of judges. The legal papers have never been loose and unbound, as he claims, quote unquote. Only Carlucci's spite has been loose and unbound. This court has no conscience and no discretion. In an exercise of extreme fairness, Carlucci writes, the court has considered each and every point submitted upon these motions. Well, what else is a court supposed to do? Glendora does not believe Judge Wood has read her papers. She would like to give him a test. Glendora thinks Judge Wood has already retired. It is a lie that Glendora did not show irreparable injury. She has shown over 500 pages of it, over 990 tortious acts. May the same befall Carlucci one day, so he can learn something about it. This phony quote ruling unquote by Carlucci is inconsistent with the other TROs judges sign all over the 19 floors of the county courthouse tower. Carlucci Wood are dehumanized, over 990 tortious acts, all documented, and they stand up for the liars and the lawbreakers. Courts are supposed to protect good people. Glendora has not broken one law, no one rule. What is her reward? A crooked court. Quote, the court can and will continue to address this matter in a fair and unbiased fashion, unquote, is a monstrous lie. This court has never addressed Glendora's case in a fair and unbiased fashion. Also, Carlucci left out a comma after will. A parenthetical phrase requires 2 commas, Mr. Carlucci. This is so ungrammatical, it goes back to school. Carlucci does not seem to understand, along with Canon 3A, due process. Due process mandates an unbiased judge with no personal interest in the verdict. Again, unilaterally, Carlucci rules in favor of the lying lawyers and the law-breaking defendants on every count. He rules against law-abiding plaintiff on every point. Something is very queer here. Is he getting paid? Is he getting favors? Is he getting gratuities? The court will entertain a motion for sanctions as other appropriate relief against plaintiffs, see, quote, unquote. But the court will entertain never any sanctions against Comboy for violating a judge's order and violating CPLR 3101F, nor against Michael Kozer for lying 3 times of police officer Larkin's address. Again, read the bias, hatred, evil, arrogance, and immaturity, malice, ineptitude, vindictiveness, and Carlucci's laundry list of Glendora's other fights for rights on his page 5. Again, remember, Carlucci peruses Glendora's logs, not for the truth, not for justice, peruses these records of the law-breaking by defendants and their crooked lawyers, but for typos. See, he peruses them not for the law-breaking, but for the typos. And anything else in his unfairness and his bias he can use against Glendora and for defendants' lawyers. Oh yes, Carlucci is Mr. Fair personified. Glendora has always complied with the judicial process. Carlucci never has. The judicial process is what? The judge does not read the papers. The judge does not make the decision. The judge is led around by the nose by the law clerk. The decision is always what is best for the judges and not for the litigants and not for society. This is the judicial process. And in his last gasp, Carlucci gets in another, quote, sanctions against the plaintiff, unquote, but never against law-breaking defendants' lawyers. Carlucci's treatment of a pro se is heinous. Glendora has always abided by the laws of the states, and Carlucci is evil to insinuate anything else. Carlucci defendants and their lawyers have not abided by the laws of the state. Carlucci cannot even find an affidavit of service sitting in front of him in the file. He should be fired. Glendora is glad everybody all over New York courtland and on TV is seeing Carlucci's bizarre decisions and orders. Defendants' lawyers did not win because they were smart, nor because they were good, nor because they were right. They won because the court is incompetent, unfair, prejudiced, and crooked. Glendora's wishes all those in the heading could see the videotapes. Those of you in the New York area probably have seen them on TV. There are 2-hour videotapes to look at. Glendora gave them to the police. Carlucci lets Michael Koza go scot-free for lying. Indeed, Carlucci never even mentions it. It is loaded, stacked, rigged, premeditated. And anything Glendora brings forward to this court will again have the rank stamp of Carlucci. There have been 4 such this year. Glendora gets calls every week from people who have been victims of crooked courts. They ask her to join their movement against the courts. As soon as she gets time, she will. She will march with her festive banner high. They should close the county courthouse tower and put up a sign, folks, out of order, broken down. The courts don't work anymore. They are beyond repair, property condemned. The fund for modern courts is corrupt. Glendora's lawsuit against them brought that out. Elizabeth Hubbard, Alan Beck, and Michelle Mayapath. And in doing so, Glendora showed Colabella's court to be corrupt. We have no local newspaper to help the public clean up the courts and find justice and find the protection they are due from our contributions, state and federal. Instead, we have Gannett. Gannett owns the judges because the political boss has to have that endorsement this time of year, November 8th, Election Day. Bendish never shows at the conference September 13th, but does he get sanctioned? No. He doesn't even get mentioned. It is a court that is pro-lawyer, pro-defendant, pro-crook. They are always right, even when wrong. As Glendora continues reading the New York statutes, she will list the other laws this gang has broken. Carlucci had no basis and no argument and no proof. Judge Wood, like the other judges, refuses to face their law clerk's faults. The courts are the biggest consumer ripoff we have in America today, and judges have to stop covering up what they are really like by prohibiting audio recorders and video recorders in the courthouse. Judges act a whole lot better when they know a record is being made and going to the public. If there are typos, and there are plenty of them, I am sorry. I do not have time to proofread nor correct. I do not have a secretary. I count on your being speed readers, not nitpickers like Carlucci. This paper has already taken 22 hours out of our lives. We have no life left. And so now, what are the choices? A, appeal this wretched rubbish to the Appellate Division, 2nd Department in Brooklyn by November 3rd, 1994, 5 days before election. B, wait for Judge Wood to retire next year and take Carlucci out of the courthouse with him. C, move that Judge Wood recuse himself from flagrant denial of due process and on not doing his work. D, move that Judge Wood vacate and reconsider this odious disgrace of October 4th, 1994, that this judgment be set aside. The judgment of this court was set aside long ago. Go along with his madness until the trial readiness conference of January 18th, 1995, and get the matter where it belongs, into the hands of the calendar clerk. And here is today's joke. Bob, I buy sweet chariot stocks. As soon as I buy them, they swing low. Dated White Plains, New York, October 10th, 1994. Yours in truth, Glendora. And now, we have to tell you about the exhibits. The first exhibit is Carlucci's corrupt decision, which I showed to you. The second exhibit, that was Exhibit A. Exhibit B. is a log. And it happens to be Exhibit Pi, and it's the log, mailing number 84, the log of 9/12/94 week. And it is 36 pages. Now, let me read you to whom this is going again. Cuomo, Pataki, Wood, Carlucci, Trafficante, Malones, Ingracia, Casella, Stern, K, and U. Exhibit C is the law that Walsh, Alpucci, Larkin have broken, and the judge with his law clerk are ignoring. This is the law. Exhibit D. This is Glendora's motion for those four things that were all denied, where Carlucci Wood ruled unilaterally in favor of the crooks. This also includes the 3 Dippy decisions made by Carlucci earlier. It also includes the lies of Michael Koza about police officer Larkin's correct address. It includes the really bad and weak cross motion of Michael Koza, and it includes Glendora's reply brief to the same, which Judge Wood had never seen. And then here are several pages of letters to Judge Wood, pointing out to Judge Wood that CPLR 3118 had been violated, that a party may serve on any other party a written notice demanding a verified statement act setting forth the post office address and residence of the party. Now that applies to the Cablevision officers and directors just as much as it applies to police officer Andrew Larkin. So there were several pages of that. And Exhibit H is Glendora's letter to John Porzio that he has ample grounds by the emergency tenant protection law administered by the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal to evict the Walsh families and the Alpucci families. Now here it is. And it costs $2.90 to mail every one of those, and there were about 10 of them, right? Okay, so Monday, everybody in the county courthouse was loafing, so Tuesday, when they came back to work, I took the protest, the Wood Carlucci wall protest, to the 18th floor. Judge Wood was in his conference room. I took in his copy and also a copy of the wall log for this past week. I put it on his table, and he said, give it to John Sulich. He'll stamp it and everything. You know, a clear signal that he wasn't going to read it. Clear signal that he wasn't going to read it. And then he says to me, how are you today? And I said, bad. And I went to John Sulich. You know, a clear signal that he wasn't going to read it. Clear signal that he wasn't going to read it. And then he says to me, "How are you today?" And I said, "Bad." And I went to John Sulich and I says, "Here's Judge Wood's copy, and here's your copy." And then I went down to the 17th floor and to Paul Carlucci's office, and his head was down, and I waited for him to look up, and I stared into his soulless eyes, and I left his copy on his desk. And I turned and I walked toward the glass door exit, and I never saw him again because I was walking out and my back was to him, and he says, "Is this a motion? Is this a submission?" And I said, "No." And then he said, "Is this something else?" And I didn't hear him by then. I was out of the glass doors and to the elevator, because I had to go to the second floor to watch the appellate division, which was about to convene. A couple of days later, I called John Sulich and asked him if he read it, and he says, "No, I don't get into those things. I read the cover page," he says, "but that's all." He says, "I don't get into that." He says, "I'm just a calendar clerk." So it looks like we've got the old pattern repeated. Judge Wood's not going to read it. Carlucci's going to read it. Stop for some jokes, and the striker was carrying a sign that said, "Time heals all wounds." And the second striker behind him carried a second sign that said, "Time and a half heals them faster." Boys said, "Daddy, what causes rain?" And Daddy said, "High pressure areas, cold fronts, warm moist air, and the first day of your vacation." Pete says that vacation is no problem for him. His boss tells him when he can go, and his wife tells him where they're going. What else happened on the law-breaking of the Walshes, Alpuccis, and Larkins? On the log for this week, on October the 6th, 1994, Thursday, after all the videotaping and after all of the editing of the program, today was a day of peace. At 8:35 p.m. an ambulance was here, and the police cruiser was here, and they were here 20 minutes. Two boys got into the ambulance, walked into it, and we neglected to get the police report for you. Harold watches so much sports on TV. He watches football, hockey, basketball. His mother-in-law says he suffers from athlete's seat. At 1:30 p.m. I gave a loaf of bread to the people who moved into 3C. I was very tardy with it. I should have given it to them months ago, but I got around to it and I gave them a loaf of bread. And the mother and four daughters, her name is Colleen Brady, and the daughters are Erin and Maggie and Shannon. They came to my door and they thanked me, so I gave them another loaf of bread. That was at 5 p.m. And these are all of the police reports. I just really don't think I can read them to you because they aren't written that clearly enough. We're going to give Officer Coyle the prize because his police report went 3 pages. And he called Patricia Calabrese in apartment 2B a concerned parent. Oh, that's nice. We're not used to that around here. That's very nice. And another officer, this is Coyle, 1, 2, and 3, named, another officer wrote 2 pages. Who was that? Robinson. He gets praise for writing 2 pages. And there are things wrong in the police report. So you correct those. And a good-looking sergeant was here in apartment 2B. I'm pretty sure I read you that. That there was a report of threatening phone calls And then the police came, and they couldn't get into the apartment, and John Porzio came, and he didn't have a key that fit the apartment. So the police called the firemen. So the firemen came with a ladder, and they were just about to enter the apartment when the police found out that the person in 3B was at work and was well, alive and well. And so they all dispersed. And this is Robinson's report. And the, okay. Marianne was here Saturday, or was it Sunday, and she made the halls look very nice in the cellar. The weekend was majorly usurped by the protest to the bad work of Paul Carlucci and of Judge Wood. And we needed a wire coat hanger to clean out the vacuum hose because all of my coat hangers have been knitted over by my mother. And I certainly won't destroy one of those. It was very nice the way she knitted over them and gave them a little sweater. It's cute. So I had to go borrow a wire coat hanger, and I had to go to 4 apartments to find one. And finally, I got one. And it says here that the stockbroker says you'd be surprised how many people drive up to my office in a Lincoln with a chauffeur to ask advice of a guy who comes to work on the subway. And there were 2 cars collided, and a 3rd car pulled up, and the man jumped out of the 3rd car, and he says, I saw the whole thing happen. I'm a lawyer. I'll take either side. We had vegetarian hot dogs, and Katie is a vegetarian. She's a good little vegetarian cat. Where all are the cats today? They didn't come and see it today. Saturday night, no, it was Sunday night. Some people came to visit in apartment 3B. They came around 9:30 or 10. They got out of the car, made car noise, and made a lot of voice noise, and it awakened me. And then I got back to sleep, and they came out, and then got in the car again, a whole lot of voice noise and the car noise, and awakened me the 2nd time. And then the 3rd time, they came back in about 5 minutes, and there was a lot of noise. And then, so the sleep was shot for the night, and I got up and I worked until 12:30, and then they came out again at 12:30 a.m. and made all this voice noise and all this car noise. Now, there's just no need of that. And what's more, it's against the law. Postage and the cost of the printing of this bad work by Paul Carlucci and by Judge Harold Wood. And the cost of the printing was something like $20, I think. And then the cost of the postage was something like $30. At least $30. $35, I guess. Okay, here's a police report by Eric Fisher. The report taken over the phone. Complainant reports on above. Date, time and location, Roberta Walsh, Nella Alpucci, also of 21 Greenridge Avenue, were sitting on a wall in the parking area. Can't read it. Oh, taunting her, complainant, with whistling. And complainant stated she did not know which one was doing the whistling, but felt it was done to harass her. It was pretty obviously Roberta Walsh, because she's done that so many times before. And let's see what happened on Monday. Monday was pretty much ruined by having to type the Walsh, Alpucci, Larkin, Carlucci, Wood protest. As I said, that whole thing took about 22 hours. And then the Lincoln, I took the Lincoln in because it has a clunk when you put the brake on. And so Rick at White Plains Service Senior diagnosed it as a ball joint, and they couldn't, White Plains Lincoln Mercury, they don't sell a ball joint separately. You have to buy the whole upper control arm, and and it's $160. And then White Plains Motors brought in 3 ball joints, and none of them would fit this Lincoln. And then Rick bought a ball joint from Winix, and it wouldn't fit, and he took it back, and they wouldn't take it back. It was $60. Winix is a terrible store. Don't ever go there. Winix Aid Auto. Don't ever go there. And so they ended up having to use my ball joint, and they put in bushings and greased it up a lot. And I took it out, and the clunk was gone, but when I turned, there was a creak, and when you turned again, there was a creak. So I took it back, and with a lot of grease, that was gone. And this whole thing cost $112, which is a ripoff. And as far as that car goes, I'll never get rid of that bucking that happened when the new engine was put in. The rebuilt engine was put in, for which I paid $2,000. That bucking has been with it ever since. It will never go away. I believe that they discombobulated some wire, some little tiny wire that causes it to buck. And they think it's the distributor and the carburetor. Well, let me tell you, there was nothing wrong with my distributor when I went in there. There was nothing wrong with my carburetor when I went in there. And there's nothing wrong with all of the other parts that they've replaced in that car ever since they put in the rebuilt engine. And I went in there because I had a valve lifter tapping noise. And my car was ruined while it was in there. It was shot. The engine was shot then. It happened right there at their place. So I don't know. Car repair, nobody seems to know what he's doing. Nobody seems to be honest. Nobody seems to know the job. It's just terrible. One ripoff after another. Thousands of dollars. So we had no car, and it came 3 p.m., and Franklin finished typing the 20-page wall, Carlucci wood, and James Walsh, with the guest Billy, was breaking 2 laws, the White Plains Noise Ordinance Law and the landlord's rule not to play on the grass. So I got a videotape of that and showed it to you. And I called the White Plains Police, and that's on videotape. He saw how they acted, Keystone cops. And then we walked to Office Max, and it was beautiful. It was a perfect fall day. The temperature was exactly right, wasn't any wind, and it was just a beautiful walk. It's 3.5 blocks. And we spent 10 hours in Office Max doing the wall, Alpucci, Larkin, Carlucci, wood, protest, printing that, and printing the wall log and printing the Glendora TV log, and that's 10 hours, 5 hours per person, and we spent about $60 on copying. Just because of law breaking, and just because of corrupt courts, and just because of lying lawyers. Division meeting in White Plains, coming Ritter and Miller and Rosenblatt and Thompson. It was a day of peace, and Thursday up until noontime right now has been peace. Because of Wood, Wall, and Carlucci, we missed a chat with Glendora at 5:30 p.m. on Channel 14 Monday, but we saw it on Channel 8, TCI, at 9 p.m. Tuesday. It generated a lot of calls. It was about the Walshes, it was about Cablevision, it was about modern courts. Patricia Calabrese of 2B, I came over and didn't want a log, and she didn't want her telephone number in the log. Her telephone number appeared in a police report. She gave the police her telephone number. And of course, that's a public record. That's the end. So be careful of that. You know, you can say telephone number, and they say you can say refuse, and you can say, when they ask you your date of birth, you can say refused. So if you don't want it to be a public record, don't give it to Louise, because immediately it becomes a public record. Knock. Who's there? Fortification. Fortification who? Fortification this year, we go to the mountains. And vacations are really great. People get up at 4 a.m. and drive 100 miles to find a sign that says home cooking. A camping party was hopelessly lost in the woods of Maine. And they went around and went around and went around. And finally, one of the people in the party got up enough courage to say to the guide, "I thought you told us you were the best guide in Maine." And the guide said, "Well, I am. But right now, I think we're in Canada." And what law-breaking, lying, and covering up has Cablevision been up to this past week from October the 6th to October the 13th? Quite a lot. We have here from paid liar Robert Kalagi of Sadley, Stevens, Burke & Burke, a letter that I will address in just a second with you folks, and a written order here for Judge Silverman to sign. And here comes Ginny Cat. And Ginny Cat's going to sit on all the papers I was going to read you. See, the signature is left blank for Judge Silverman to sign. There's a whole lot of things wrong with that. And I will read you my paper to Judge Silverman opposing that and pointing out its crookedness. Yes? And Ginny's right underneath it. Ginny, over here. There you go, Ginny. Over there. That way. That way, Ginny. Over this way, Ginny. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, this is Glendora versus James A. Cofalt, Charles F. Dolan, John Tata, William J. Bell, Mark A. Lusgarten, Francis F. Randolph Jr., Robert S. Lemley, Joseph Osnara, James L. Dolan, Cable Systems Corporation. Plaintiff Glendora protests the crookedness of Kalagi. Gag order into the order when it was not in the order to show cause, and protests the court's ex parte, and protests defendants do not show irreparable harm. And this is an affidavit. Glendora, being duly sworn, deposes and says her reasons follow: protesting the crookedness of Kalagi, putting gag order into order when it was not in the order to show cause, protesting the court's ex parte, and protesting defendants do not show irreparable harm. 1. Review this letter Kalagi wrote October the 4th, 1994. Dear Justice Silverman, enclosed, please find a proposed order vacating the statement for judgment entered August the 23rd, 1994. That's for $797. Cablevision is trying to get this stopped. How cheap? Enclosed August 23rd, 1994, and for related relief. This order is being sent to the court as requested on September 30th, 1994. A copy of this letter and order is being sent to Glendora, Robert M. Kalagi. Glendora wants to know, why did the court request Kalagi send an order on September 30th, 1994? Why did the court do this ex parte behind Glendora's back and not tell her? This is the Judge Silverman court. Why does this illegal order arrive at Glendora 7 days later on October 7th, Friday, after the court was closed? Why isn't Glendora notified immediately September 30th, Friday, or October 3rd, Monday, and 7 days after the return date? Why is this not sent out until October 4th? Why does Kalagi send this express mail to the court and by snail mail to Glendora? Here's the letter. And here's a copy of the envelope. And the date of mailing is October 4th. Yet it went it went express mail to Judge Silverman. Kalagi lies, steals, and cheats again. The order to show cause says nothing about plaintiffs being directed to refrain from serving papers upon any of the individual defendants or otherwise contacting said defendants or members of their family pursuant to this court's order dated June 8, 1994. Here is the order to show cause. Now you remember the order to show cause. I read it to you. It has nothing in there about refraining from contacting defendants who can't stand being faced with the truth. There's nothing in there at all. The order to show cause received and answered said nothing about and also ordering plaintiff to refrain from contacting individual defendants or members of their family consistent with this court's prior order of June 8, 1994, and the matter having regularly come on to be heard on September 30th, 1994 is what the order says that he wants that he wants Silverman to sign. Glendora says, how crooked can a person get? Quote, and the matter having regularly come on to be heard on September 30th, 1994 is a lie. The matter was not heard regularly or irregularly because 7 and 6 paragraphs above were not in the order to show cause. This is lying, stealing, and cheating, nothing new on the part of Kalagi and these law-breaking Cablevision defendants. And this is a lie also. Now, upon reading and filing the order to show cause dated September 16, 1994, and the affidavits of J. Allison Strickland, both sworn to September 16, 1994, with exhibits annexed hereto, and the opposition of Glendora in the matter having been submitted on September 30th, 1994, this is a lie. Quote, now upon reading the opposition of Glendora is a lie. Glendora did not have a chance to present an opposition because 7 and 9 were not in the order to show cause. The gag order was not in the order to show cause. So Kalagi comes along and he writes out an order for Judge Silverman to sign, and he inserts a gag order. I had no opportunity to show cause why no such gag order should be inserted. How lying and thieving and cheating can a person get? Robert M. Kalagi. Quote, notice to defendant's counsel, unquote, is not necessary pursuant to CPLR 8402 and 8403, as Glendora pointed out in her paper to show cause of September 30th, 1994. In other words, as an order to show cause to keep me from collecting the $797 that Cablevision owes me. Cablevision with its assets of $1,414,375,000. There is an order to show cause to keep me from collecting it and keeping the sheriff of Nassau County from collecting it. That's what's in the order to show cause. And then Kalagi, ex parte, in the court behind my back, say, send me an order to sign. And so Kalagi sends an order to sign to enjoin me from collecting my $797 and the sheriff from collecting it in Nassau County. But he slips in a gag order that wasn't in the order to show cause, that I had to show cause. Now, how crooked can you get? To refrain from serving papers upon any of the individual defendants or otherwise contacting said defendants or members of their family pursuant to this court's order dated June 8, 1994. What kind of papers are they talking about? They don't specify what kind of papers they're talking about. What kind of papers? The June 8, 1994 order is over. Judge Silverman told Glendora on July 14th 3 times that it was over. Such a gag order is a denial of Glendora's free speech and of Glendora's due process. It is Gestapo. It is un-American. It denies Glendora rights to petition her government for redress of wrongs on her next lawsuit against Cablevision lawbreakers. And further, as this citation shows, service of motion papers on defendants' attorneys' offices was not good and sufficient service. Lincoln First Bank versus Healy, 1976. 86 Miscellaneous, 2nd edition, page 373. Judge Silverman has no jurisdiction over this case anymore. His decision order were appealed by Glendora August 27, 1994, and cross-appealed by the defendants 3 weeks later. Judge Silverman would not sign Glendora's simple application to correct the typo from Cable Systems Corporation to Cablevision Systems Corporation. He wouldn't sign that. Yet, with alacrity, he signs defendant's order to show cause, to rob Glendora of her costs of $797 when Cablevision has assets of $1.5 billion. Glendora asked Judge Silverman to read carefully her paper showing cause why this bully order, go, enjoin, should not be signed. Glendora renews with vehemence her motion that Judge Silverman recuse himself from her case because of his hatred of Glendora. Due process mandates an unbiased judge with no personal interest in the verdict. Glendora told Newsday all about this. They are writing a story and sent over a photographer who took many pictures of Glendora, in fact 100, during her TV show. Such an order to gag Glendora would be ambiguous because these same defendants are in other lawsuits, and Glendora has the right to communicate with them where Judge Silverman has no jurisdiction. Such a gag order would be toothless because defendants are going to see and hear the reports on TV or hear about them from friends, relatives, and associates. Again, such a gag order is the Gestapo, and any such gag order Glendora will ask the appellate division to vacate. It is already res judicata and collateral estoppel. Judge Bryant denied this sick Kalaji motion back in February of 1994. So an order vacating statement, this is what Kalaji is trying to lie to get. An order vacating statement for judgment entered August 23, 1994, and enjoining plaintiff from executing on same and restraining plaintiff from contacting individual defendants or their families. So what Kalaji writes here is a lie, a theft, and a cheat. It is manipulation of the court and of the constitutional rights of a pro se. The record stands and will be in the archives forever. It denies Glendora's rights to petition our government for redress of wrongs, and on her next lawsuit against Cablevision, which will be the breaking of the New York State Business Corporation law. It is obvious what is going on. This travesty of post-decision order has cut an embarrassing record in the archives of the New York State Supreme Court, Westchester County. Glendora said to Judge Silverman July 14th, "Is it over?" Judge Silverman says it is over. As much as we would love to keep these cases, we have to let them go. Consult the minutes. This case is out of this court by the judge's own statement. It is no wonder Kalaji is ashamed to have his client see his legal papers. They are terrible. The case is under the jurisdiction of the Appellate Division, 2nd Department, which will convene in the Westchester Courthouse Tower tomorrow at 10 a.m. Justices Thompson, Miller, Ritter, and Rosenblatt. Glendora will go see them, as she always does. Judge Mary Smith was a guest on Glendora's TV show. She is a Republican candidate for Westchester County Court on November 8th. Glendora is reading the New York statutes. She is up to the 10th book where the CPLR starts, and as she continues to read them, she will list the other laws that Kalaji defendants have broken. Glendora renews her motion for Judge Silverman to recuse himself because of his hatred of prejudice of Glendora. And here is the last point and the biggest. Kalaji defendants failed to prove irreparable harm. In an order to show cause seeking a preliminary injunction, it is well established law that to obtain this drastic relief of a preliminary injunction, the movement must show by competent proof and evidentiary detail irreparable injury, absent the relief sought, a likelihood of ultimate success upon the merits, and that the relief sought is favored by a balancing of the equities. Doe et al. Versus Axelrod, 73 New York 2nd, 748. Dated White Plains, New York.